Over the next 15 to 18 minutes, I am going to share with you a scientific approach to becoming who you want to be so you can do what you need to do to have what you need to have. That way you can have the health, wealth, relationships, and impact that are already yours. And if you've ever felt like you were your own upper limit, like you were your own bottleneck, or you were getting in your own way, then you're going to want to make sure that you're paying extra attention to this, because I'm going to be breaking down exactly why this happens and what you can do to eliminate the problem forever. But before I do that, let me first tell you why I'm even here. You see, the fact that I am using my voice with this much confidence and conviction in myself is actually very funny to me, because growing up, I didn't really like being the center of attention. Specifically, I did not like using my voice like at all. And you see, I'm not sure if you can tell yet, but I have these two speech impediments. I can't say my words with R's and S's correctly. I just mess up with that sound. I got a lot better at it, especially with my R's, but when it comes to my S's, I still have a pretty drastic lisp, and you can't hide it, all right? Although I embrace this lisp and I own it now, growing up, I was extremely ashamed of it. In fact, I remember on this particular day, I was about 5 years old, and regular school day, we go to lunch. And back then we used to get lunch. We used to get this carton of milk with this carton of juice. I hated the milk back then, so I only ever drank the juice. And on this particular day, I must have wanted some more juice, because what happened was I raised my hand to ask. So the way that the table was set up, there was a long cafeteria table, and I'm sitting here on the end of the table. And then about 6 feet away is the teacher's table. So on this day, I wanted more juice. So I raised my hand to get my teacher's attention, and I said, "Can I have some more juice?" But remember, I had a speech impediment, and at 5 years old, it was horrible. So instead of me saying, "Can I have some more juice? I'm thirsty," I said, "Can I have some more juice? I'm thirsty." And when I said that, there was a kid who was sitting across from me, and that kid started laughing. And the kid next to them started laughing. Then the kid next to me started laughing. And then before I knew it, I had the entire table laughing at me because of the way that I said the word thirsty, because I said dusty instead of thirsty. Now, I know this may seem like a small moment, but to a 5-year-old, this was so big. This was so significant to me at 5 years old. I added so much meaning to this event, because that is the way that we make sense of life, is we interpret it by adding meanings to things. So in this moment, I looked at that event and I made that mean that there was something wrong with me because I couldn't speak properly, and everybody else can. So that must also mean that I am too different. There's something wrong with me and I am too different. I chose to make those two statements core beliefs about myself in that moment. And from that moment on, I always felt like I wasn't good enough, like I wasn't worthy, like I wasn't worthy of truly being loved and truly being accepted. I always felt like an outsider, literally everywhere I went, even inside of my own family. And I remember this strong desire to become successful, because I thought that if I became successful, then maybe, just maybe, I'll be accepted and I'll be loved. So I had all of this drive, but little did I know I was driving with the e-brake locked on, because I became successful. I made a few $100,000 by the age of 23. And I felt like I was on top of the world. But all of a sudden, I'm sitting in that Ferrari and I just throw that e-brake on and I start finding myself slowing down. It was kind of like I had an air balloon inside of like a sandbag inside of a big air balloon. I was going up, then back down, going up, then back down. I ended up burning myself out, sabotaging my success, doing things that went against what I wanted. I was making stupid decisions that led me to literally burning every dollar I made. I ended up burning that engine out, and I found myself completely depleted, lonely, and feeling even more worthless than I did before. And I tried so hard to change my situation, because I thought that if I could change my situation, I would stop feeling so worthless. I thought I was feeling worthless because of my external conditions, but I didn't even stop to think whether or not my external conditions were where they were because I felt worthless. I'm going to say that one more time. I thought that I was feeling worthless because of my conditions, but I never stopped to think whether my conditions were the way they were because of the way that I felt. And that right there is a problem. We think our thoughts, our feelings, and our expectations are byproducts of us observing an external environment apart from us. But we never stop to think whether or not our external environment is actually a reflection of our own expectations, thoughts, and beliefs and feelings. So we try so hard to force our reality to change by sheer force and willpower. But if you've been alive for any length of time, then you already know that willpower only take you so far. And that's because there's something deeper that influences your external conditions. That is our thoughts and our beliefs about them. And little did I know, all of these problems that were showing up for me in my business, like constant anxiety attacks, self-sabotaging all of my money, losing everything, was happening because I believed that there was something wrong with me. I didn't allow myself to have what I truly wanted because I believed that there was something wrong with me. And this belief made me feel wrong. And this feeling of wrongness made me feel like I just didn't deserve what I wanted. So I ended up associating being successful with being worthy. And because I believed that I wasn't worthy, I pissed away my success the first time I got it because it was not consistent with the core belief that I had about myself. Reality will follow the beliefs you give it. And I had a belief of brokenness. So no matter how good things were going in any area of my life, I somehow had to break all of it. I'm here to remind you that your thoughts, your beliefs, your expectations, and your feelings paint your entire experience, and they do it so seamlessly that you cannot distinguish between the seemingly external conditions and the thoughts, the expectations, the feelings, and desires that gave them birth. And if you do not believe that your reality is a reflection of your own belief system, then that's because you're simply not aware of the full content of your own conscious mind. You have not been examining, paying attention to your psyche. Because if you did, you would very much realize that your outside world is literally you witnessing the after effects of your own thoughts and your own beliefs and your own faith. And that's why I'm here, to remind you of this amazing ability to manipulate your environment by changing your internal thoughts, feelings, and expectations about it. I know that sounds crazy, but look, guys, there is proof that the physical environment can be manipulated by your feelings. So the US has these two satellites, one in the northern and one in the western hemisphere. These satellites are designed to measure the electromagnetic energy, the frequency of the Earth. And in 2001, the satellites reported two massive spikes in the electromagnetic charge in the field of the Earth. And so this Harvard scientist, this is where it gets really interesting. This Harvard scientist decided to look into the data so they can pinpoint when the spikes of energy actually happened, so they can see and figure out why it happened. And to their surprise, they saw that the first spike happened on September 11th, 2001, 15 minutes after the first plane hit the First World Trade Center. And the second spike in energy happened shortly after the second plane. Why am I telling you this? Because this clearly demonstrates that human emotion literally reorganizes the energetic field around us. It goes into the atmosphere. This is because reality itself, at the most fundamental level of existence, is literally just energy. If you ask any physicist in the universe what the universe is, they'll say they don't really know. But the one thing they're certain in is that the universe is just one big vibration of electromagnetic energy. And thoughts, when you focus on them or you ignore them, ignoring thoughts too causes a lot of energy. It increases the thought's electromagnetic charge, which then sends an electromagnetic wave of energy through your body as an emotion. And then these emotions very literally project outwardly into the physical world that you see, effectively reorganizing your reality based on your ideas and your thoughts about it. And this, my friends, It's why Jesus said, why do you wash the outside of the cup? Do you not understand that the one who made the outside also made the inside? My friends, there is no external game. There is no external game. The external world is the internal world expressing itself. It is a reflection of your internal perceptions. And if you can change the inside, in other words, change your beliefs about the nature of personal reality and what is possible and not possible for you, then you would change the world that you see and that you live in. And during this episode today, I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of different ways that you can practically and effectively change your beliefs about reality. Because when you change your beliefs, you can eliminate any resistance that's holding you back right now. For example, I had this client who said, Adrian, I just want to be able to remain calm in high conflict situations, and I want to stop freezing up. I want to be confident enough to handle any conversation and talk with anybody, knowing that I can handle that conversation. He told me this when I asked him what he wanted to accomplish during our Neuro-Remapping session. And I do these sessions with my clients, and he was a very successful entrepreneur who was realizing that his fear of conflict was costing him a lot of money and a lot of opportunities in his business. So he avoided making connections, having conversations. He avoided putting himself out there in ways that could have made him a lot more money. He even created this big fear and anxiety around collecting payments that'll due, past invoices from his clients. So whenever I help a client, what I do, and what the Neuro-Remapping process is designed to do, is help them reverse engineer their emotional and behavior patterns down to the belief that is creating it. So one of the ways that I do this is by using timeline therapy to accomplish this. And during this part of the session, my client went back to a memory where he was 5 years old, sitting down in his front yard playing with these toy cars. And he was with about 3 of his friends. Now, one of the boys was the oldest kid. He was about 9 years old. Remember, my client was 5, and he had this 9-year-old who told my client to give over his favorite toy truck. My client was like, no, he's a vocal, courageous little boy. He said, no, this is my toy truck. And the older boy then said, this is mine. And he pushed him, pulled the truck, and then my client pulled the truck back, and they were playing tug of war with it for a couple of minutes. And then before you knew it, my client got shoved onto the ground. He took the truck. The other boy took the truck and ran off. And at that moment, my client told himself 4 words that would hold him back for the next 47 years. Those 4 words were, I can't fight back. I can't fight back. This statement literally became a core belief. And over the next 47 years, he found himself in every social situation he could potentially find in. His words would freeze, his heart would race, his breath would shorten, his heart would beat out of his chest. He'd turn red, his words would fumble. He didn't know what to say because he believed that he couldn't fight back, which made him feel fearful to the point where he would have imagined himself unable to keep himself secure. This led him to feeling insecure, which led to decades and decades and decades of anxiety. To make it worse, he was not addressing this belief. He was just addressing the anxiety, which is only a symptom of the belief. He was ignoring the actual belief. And just like a baby would cry when being ignored, your nervous system and your psyche screams out for help when there's parts of it that are being ignored. Even thinking about potentially conflictive situations will literally cause his entire nervous system to panic. But when he became aware of this belief, and he realized that a 5-year-old created it, he reminded himself that he wasn't 5 years old anymore. And he was able to drop the belief. And I'm going to show you how to do that in this episode. I don't have enough time to talk about it right now, but in the episode, I'm going to break down some specific ways you can do that. So make sure you have your notes ready. But let me just say, right after our session, my client went on. He picked up the phone. He collected over $76,000 in past due payments. He was able to schedule some meetings that he was avoiding. He gained the social confidence he needed to put himself out there, met a new business partner. He made some personnel changes in his company, all without anxiety. All of this happened within like 2 weeks of our session. He said he felt free for the first time in his life. His physical body literally stopped having the anxious panic reactions it had before the session. This was because his mind was so dissociated with the belief that he couldn't fight back. It was so dissociated with that belief that his body itself alleviated the panic he used to experience. I'm here to remind you that your beliefs cause your conscious stream of thought. This stream of thought creates the stream of emotion you feel at any given time. It is not the other way around. Events themselves are not thrust upon you in any way, shape, or form. Although it may feel like they're an outside attacker sometimes, events are the after effect of inner doings. And if you follow the feelings that are around the events that you do not like right now, you will find the source of them. These are the kinds of changes that happens when you become aware of the root cause behind what's causing everything that's going on, the belief, and you let that belief go. Again, I'm going to share with you in this episode how you can become aware of these beliefs and how you can eliminate them. But before I do that, let me just leave you with this. First off, this works for anybody. I don't care if you got big problems or small problems. But I want to leave you with this. One day, I was leaving the house and my business partner said, Adrian, I really want you to be careful when you're driving back home. I don't know why I said that, but I just needed to say it. I was like, okay, cool. I went out. I was hanging out with my cousins. I came home that night a little bit after midnight. And as I approached this intersection, all of a sudden, that memory of what my business partner said, be careful, flashed into my mind. Then my entire body literally screamed, stop right now, stop right now, stop. And so I put my feet on the brakes. I slammed the brakes. I was about 30 feet away from a light, and that light got ran by 2 trucks. And if I was still going, I would have easily been in their way. I don't think I would be here delivering this to you. Why did I say this? Because if you look at the story, you will see the reality. Those 2 trucks passing that light, that was the after effect of an internal movement that I felt first. I listened and I paid attention to my inner world, and I got out of the way. And life happened for me. Life happens. You meet yourself internally where you're at and get out of the way.
The Tom Screen podcast is owned and made possible by Ethical Marketing Service. If your business is struggling with Google or Facebook ads, maybe you're frustrated figuring it out or there's a performance issue, Ethical Marketing Service has worked on hundreds of accounts and we can help in this area. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and for every direct account we look after, we sponsor a child in a developing nation with food, water and education. If you would like to find out if we can help, it's a free, no salesy consultation call, and the link is in the description. Enjoy the episode. Adrian Moreno, thank you for an amazing speech. I really enjoyed it. It was very professional. One thing I felt bad for about kids being mean. That made my heart hurt a little bit. But would you like to open with what you said you wanted to talk about in the episode, which is perhaps ways to change your beliefs about reality?
Beautiful. Look at you just getting straight to it. I love they already know my story, so it's beautiful. All right. Now, when it comes down to changing beliefs, now that you guys understand, not just from a philosophical point, but like from an actual physics standpoint, that what we're looking at is a big projection of your own internal perceptions. The big question is, okay, how exactly do we change our belief system? Now, when it comes to changing your belief system, it first starts with understanding, having the belief that the conscious mind is not powerless. Most people struggle getting what they want out of life and struggle changing their belief system because they have a latent belief somewhere that the inner self or the conscious mind is flawed. by nature. So if that belief is somewhere in you and you're not even aware of it, then everything I'm talking about next won't really work as much. So if you felt some kind of emotional resonance with that, pay attention to that and just start to understand that your mind and your conscious mind itself, not unconscious, the conscious mind can absolutely find every single belief that you ever held, and it is equipped to change them in the same exact way a painter can paint off the paint on their hands. Can wash off the paint on their hands. You can wash off certain beliefs that are not serving you. So in order to do this, most people, we're going to talk about doing this in an accelerated way. First and foremost is you have to actually be aware of what you want to change. And I know this sounds silly, like, okay, I got to become aware of my beliefs. People may think that they're aware of their beliefs, but in the reality of things, you think 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And about 95% of those thoughts are the same exact thoughts you thought yesterday. And the same exact thoughts you were probably thinking 2 decades ago. So with that being said, your mind is so compulsive to the point where you're only aware of about 1,200 to 1,600. If we're being nice, you're only aware of that many thoughts. So that means there is a crap load of stuff going on under your awareness. Now, it's not that you're unconscious of it. It's that you're choosing to not pay attention to it, because a lot of it doesn't feel so good to us. So we choose not to pay attention to it. And a lot of the times we think our beliefs are characteristics of reality. For example, life is hard. That is a belief held by a lot of people, and they genuinely think it's a fact of reality. They think it's a real fact of reality. When it comes down to it, that is an assumption of reality. So we have characteristics of reality. Like if I drop this apple, it's going to fall down and hit the ground. Right? That's a characteristic of reality. But then we have our beliefs about reality. I'm not good enough. Life is hard. You got to work hard to be successful. Life is short. All of these things are assumptions that need to be challenged. So you have to become aware of what you want to change. Now, in order to become aware of them, there is a couple of ways you can do this. The first and easiest way is to actually list out your belief system. What you want to do is you want to objectify your beliefs. So ask yourself these questions. What do I believe about myself is the number one thing you should ask yourself, because your beliefs about yourself are always going to paint your entire experience. What do I believe about life? What do I believe about others? These three are very essential that you cover. Now, if you have certain areas of life that are not doing so well, like your health, your wealth, your relationships, you can also say what I believe about relationships, what I believe about health, what I believe about wealth, and just start listing out whatever comes up to mind. Start listing out whatever comes up to mind. Now, the key here is you don't sit there and overanalyze what comes up. I have a rule. What comes up comes out. If it comes up, put it on a piece of paper, and you'll find a lot of the beliefs probably threaten your conscious image of yourself. You probably write down something that says, I feel like I'm not good enough. And then you're a confident person. So you stop and you're like, what? That's not true. I'm totally good enough. Don't fall into that trap of trying to logically overcome your beliefs. Your beliefs are not logical. They're emotional. Pay attention to that. So just list out what you believe to be true about yourself. This is so simple, but I assure you, so many people bypass this so damn quickly. And let me just tell you, this is the most significant thing you can do. And I know people who are listening to this podcast are definitely going to take this and use it. So I know we're in a great room for this. But take a pen and paper and list out what you actually believe to be true about life. It's the easiest thing to do. The next thing is so once you list out everything, you want to follow your emotions now. This is essential. I believe following your emotions is actually a much faster path to getting to your beliefs. And the reason why is because your emotions, like I said in that talk, are byproducts of your beliefs. Again, a belief is an idea that you accept to be true. An idea is an electromagnetic unit of energy. You focus on that idea, or you ignore the idea. You try to suppress the thought that's in there. It intensifies its charge. Are you following me? So when it intensifies its charge, that emotional charge is strong. So, for example, this is how it looks to follow your emotions. I woke up maybe like 3.5 weeks ago, and I felt very, very anxious. Like I just woke up and I felt antsy because I usually wake up and my morning routine is I like to get into a trance and visualize, which I'll talk about how to do that today as well, because that's one of the ways to change your belief. And I couldn't get into my trance. I felt so, and when I say trance, I just mean theta brainwaves, but I felt so dang antsy. And so what did I do was I felt what I was feeling. I followed my feelings, and this is how I did it. If you want to follow your feelings, vocalize what you're feeling. What I mean by that is don't say, I feel, okay, so this is how it looked for me. I said, I feel like a failure. That's just what I said in that moment. Notice I didn't say, I feel anxious. So many people make the mistake of trying to label an emotion, and we don't even know what our emotions are half the time. We don't know if it's shame, guilt, fear. We just don't know what's going on because we're not really in tune with our body a lot of the times. So instead of trying to name the emotion, just vocalize how you feel. In that moment, I felt like a failure. It wasn't anxiety to me. To me, I was like, I feel like a failure. So I vocalized my feeling. Feel like a failure. Then you want to add the phrase because after you vocalize what you feel. I feel like a failure because, and let that natural thing come up. Now, you want to do this while you're in the midst of the emotion, because when you're in the midst of the emotion, you're going to be vocalizing the subconscious thoughts and beliefs around that feeling. So you want to vocalize them. So in this case, I said, I feel like a failure because, and so the reason why I felt like a failure, by the way, was I made I forgot what it was, but I made a pretty dumb investment and lost like $9,000. So I was like, I feel like a failure. And I said, I feel like a failure because I lost $9,000. And that means, so it's, I feel blank, throw in your feeling because blank. Why do you feel that? And that means blank. This is how you follow a feeling. Because I lost $9,000. And what that means is I am a burden. Never in my life have I, at least in my mind, consciously became aware of that thought. You are a burden. That clearly was a belief that I was holding on to, that I was a burden. And so I told myself, what do I believe to be true about burdens? I believe burdens are bad. Clearly, I have a belief in bad. I know this sounds crazy because you're like, well, there is good and bad. Good and bad are ideas. I had a belief in bad. Oh, I'm bad. I believe I'm bad. That's a very interesting belief to have. And then I'm aware of the belief. But that's the second way you can become aware of your beliefs, is vocalizing your feelings. Another great way to feel your feelings, guys, is noise. Pick up a pillow, scream into a pillow. Like I'm a screamer. When I'm anxious, I scream into pillows. When I'm angry, I scream into pillows. When I'm happy, I like to dance and scream. When I eat something that tastes good, I'm like, I like making a lot of noise because that's how we feel things. Is through making noise as you bypass your analytical mind. So you can just feel a feeling and you will become aware of your thoughts behind that feeling. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Okay, great. Now that's second way you can become aware of your beliefs. The third way you can become aware of your beliefs is you can sit down. This is a mental exercise. You want to get into a trance, which I'm going to show you how to do. When you get into a trance, and when specifically theta brainwaves, you go from beta down to theta. This is a significant principle about the mind. Your mind communicates through symbols. The only thing that actually influences human behavior is images. Okay? You say words create images. When I was sharing that story, I can imagine you had your own mental movie in your mind. Words create images. Images influence human behavior. We are symbolic human beings. So when you close your eyes and images start coming up, understand those images are the direct representation of the thoughts you had the moment before you close your eyes. When you see pictures in your mind, those are representations of thoughts that you have in your mind. This is why you can see a tree and feel so emotional by looking at a tree, because it will trigger something within you symbolically. So what you want to do is create a symbolic scene in your mind. The best way to do this is get into a trance. Again, I'll show you how to do it. When you're in that space, imagine you are in a garden. Just imagine you're in a garden. Some roses may be really beautiful. Some may be really ugly. It may be raining. It may be thorns everywhere. Let your mind come up with its own image. And trust me, it will. Just sit there and picture a yard in front of you. Start letting the images come to you. Your mind's going to communicate to you the own state of your mind, the own condition of your mind. And when you're in those moments, it sounds so silly, but water the grass, water the roses, take out the thorn bushes, replant something else. Your mind knows what you're doing when you're doing these kind of things, because your mind knows what image is going to be associated with the thought. Your mind is not stupid. It's very, very intelligent. So these are 3 ways you can become. And let's say if you see like an ugly thorn bush, you can ask yourself, what does this mean to me? And that will spit out the belief. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. Very clever.
That's step 1. There's 3 parts to step 1. Become aware of your beliefs. And that is, first, list them out. Second, vocalize your feelings. Third, get into what I like to call your mental movie landscape, where you can start to see what pictures are in your minds. So now when you're aware of it, okay, Adrian, now what do you do with that? There are a couple of ways you can change your beliefs through just creating an experience in your brain. So when you're changing a belief, we're going to get scientific about it. All you're doing is rewiring neural pathways. That is all you're doing when you're changing a belief. You just change the way your brain is literally physically structured. So in order to rewire a neural pathway, there's 2 principles you got to keep in mind: repetition and intense emotion. Our brains only change through experience. In other words, our brains only change through emotion. And a repetition is where we learn certain behaviors. So we want to use those 2 principles to our own good, to install brand new beliefs. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. So let's first talk about getting into theta trances. So we want to get into a theta trance. By the way, guys, a trance is nothing more but a state of absorption to the point where you block out other information. It happens all the time. Like, Thomas, really quick, are you aware of the sensation in your left foot right now?
Well, I am now.
Now you are. Exactly. 5 seconds ago, you were not. In other words, you were tranced out because your mind was blocking that information out because it was not relevant to this experience. And in the same exact way, you can believe you're not good enough. And then your brain will block out everything else that is irrelevant to the belief that I'm not good enough. So it will just show you all the reasons why you're not good enough, right? So, okay. So that's all a trance is. So it's nothing like out of the ordinary, guys. It's very ordinary. So you're going to get into theta. You're going to go from beta down to theta. The reason this is important when it comes to changing beliefs is because when you're in theta brainwaves, the door in between your conscious and unconscious mind literally swings wide open. So you can go in and freaking reprogram it the way you want to. This is literally your life by design. So the way you get into theta brainwaves is just understanding, when do we even access theta? We access theta when we're dreaming. When we're dreaming, something is happening in our eyes, and it's called rapid eye movement, REM. You can manufacture rapid eye movement and trigger theta while being awake. This is all you got to do. You just look up with your eyeballs, and if you have a little infant, a little baby, watch them go to bed at night. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to go into a full-on trance. You're going to watch it happen in front of you. All you got to do is look up with your eyes, and then with your eyelids looking up, keep your eyeballs up. And while your eyeballs are up, you then close your eyelids down. You will get this really funny, rapid fluttering sensation happening in your eyes. Thomas, do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. That right there is rapid eye movement. I'm already feeling really calm because the moment you trigger rapid eye movement, you start triggering some chemicals to leave through your body, to leave your brain, start going through your body. That turns on the experience part of your nervous system. This is why whenever you're dreaming, it feels like a real life experience because you're in theta. And it makes neuroplasticity, it makes the changing of your neurons a lot easier when your rapid eye movement's going. So you trigger this rapid eye movement. And then you want to and by the way, now that I think about it, I have a guided video. I will let your audience download it to actually show them, like, guide them through this. But what you want to do is when your eyes are fluttering, look down, tilt your chin, and imagine a flight of 10 stairs. Then just take step 10, feel it under your feet, hear your feet, see your feet. Step 10, I'm going, and repeat this. Step 10, I'm going deeper. Step 9, I'm going deeper. Step 8, I'm going deeper. Go all the way down to step 1. And at the bottom of that, tell yourself, my eyes are glued shut. Try to open them. If you can't open them, congratulations, you hit theta. That is like a tester to see. Hey, so whenever I have a client in a session, I'll say, hey, your eyes are glued shut. Try to open them. They'll be like, and when they can't open them, I'm like, got them in theta. Now let's do the work. All right. So that's how you get into theta. Now, when you're in theta, what do we do there? There's a couple of things you can do in theta. One of my favorite things to do is visualization. Now, this is deliberate visualization, but you want to do this properly. Most people, they visualize. But I'm going to show you how to become the visualization in an entire new way. So when you're visualizing, in order to make it actually work, remember, intense emotion is the name of the game. The more intense an emotion, the faster the manifestation of whatever you're putting that emotion towards. Okay. So when you're at the bottom of the stairs, you're in trance. At that point, throw a picture like a movie screen on the in your mental mind, in your mind's eye, not big enough to take up your whole mind, just like a projector, like a movie screen. And the reason why I have my clients throw up a picture is because I don't know if you've ever visualized, Tom. Do you visualize? I'm sure you've, practiced some visualization before.
I've done some NLP, so this is sort of ringing some bells with me.
Gotcha,
go on anyway.
Got you. So it's very difficult to just, for a lot of people, they struggle visualizing. By the way, guys, everybody can visualize. If you say I can't visualize, that is a belief. It's not an actual reality. We're visual beings. But what happens is, if it's difficult to create a picture just like out of nowhere, but it's very easy to throw a picture on a screen. The screen supports the image a lot easier. So what you want to do is, once you have the mental picture, throw up a memory of when you felt extremely confident, whether it was confident, just good about yourself, pretty, courageous, whatever. I just need you to feel good about yourself. Go back to a previous accomplishment. I don't care if it was the first time you tied your shoes. I don't care how long ago it was. All that matters is the emotional charge. The easiest way to trigger an emotional charge, positive, is focus on a positive event that happened to you. If you want to close your eyes, think about a time that it worked for you. You're going to feel really great. Think about a time that didn't. You're going to feel really shitty. It's going to happen very quickly. So that's step 2 is once you have the mental screen, throw the image of that memory. Once you're feeling really good, you're going to take that emotion. You're going to bring it over to a brand new picture. Then you're going to wipe off the picture from the TV. And I like, actually in my mind, I act like I'm wiping it off. And then I throw on a desired event. But I'm throwing on that event with this level of confidence, this level of joy. I'm bringing it into that event, which makes my brain literally think that it's happening because of the emotional intensity that's involved with this picture. But the picture that I give myself is very deliberate. I sit down before I do my visualization and I ask myself, what would I be doing if this new belief were true? So I have my old belief from step 1. I flip the belief into a new belief. If I have a belief that says I only have enough to pay rent every single month, I'm going to flip that belief to say I have enough to pay other people's rent, whatever it is. But you want to ask yourself, what would I be doing if this belief were true? Become aware of what you'll be doing and then picture yourself doing that. This is more than sufficient to change your brain into thinking that new belief is actually real, because it's going to give you the belief system to now execute that picture. And it will do it seamlessly. It will do it so easily because the way that the mind works, it just needs a clear picture, just like a torpedo. When I program a torpedo to hit another boat or something, that sounds crazy, but if you want to go hit another boat, I don't drive the torpedo. I just program where I need it to go, send it on its way. It's going to get knocked off course, but it's always going to find its way back. In the same exact way, you need a clear image in your mind. You will get there effortlessly on its own. I became a speaker, not by training to become a speaker, but by seeing myself on a stage with hundreds of people on their feet clapping after I delivered a speech in my mind for 3 years in a row. Now, that's the second thing you can do to change a belief. All right. The third thing you can do. That's the first thing you can do to change your belief. The second thing you can do to change your belief is conscious auto-suggestion. And by the way, you can use affirmations, whatever. The reason why I don't like using affirmations, the word, is because they don't know how to use them right. It does not help if you feel like shit, but you say, I feel happy. That is dangerous. That is the most dangerous thing when you're trying to affirm. You cannot affirm a new reality. You feel yourself into a new reality. You do not think yourself into a new reality. You feel yourself into a new reality. And so the way that you want to do that, instead of trying to affirm yourself out of your shitty feeling, feel your shit. And the way you want to feel it is through verbalizing your feeling, making a noise. However, whether you want to shake, whether you want to dance, whatever it is, feel your feeling. Make room for the feeling to be felt. So, for example, let's say go back to my example of going all the way back down to I'm bad. I went all the way down to I'm bad. I felt the belief. I felt the emotion that was around that belief of I'm bad, and it felt horrible. That's what made me scream. That's what made me cry. But when I got done screaming and crying, I had this space. It just felt easy. You know, when you, after a good cry, you're just like, oh, I feel good. I had this space. And so with that space, that is when you use affirmations. That is when you throw suggestions in. You do not throw suggestions in when you feel like shit. When you throw suggestions in, when you feel horrible, you will deepen that emotional response to be stronger next time. So please do not do that. Just feel what you're feeling. And then now that I was aware of the belief that I'm bad, step 2 is once I feel my stuff, step 2 is, again, from just like we did with the visual practice, with the visualization, think of a moment where you felt confident. Again, all I'm looking to do is to bring up this emotional charge, okay? And then start repeating that brand new suggestion when you're feeling very emotionally high, okay? First, you feel your feeling. Once your feeling is felt, you throw up a picture that makes you feel great about yourself. When that picture's there and you feel really great, wipe the picture out and start repeating one affirmation. Do not throw a bunch. One. Give yourself one power suggestion. My power suggestion is I'm worthy and deserving of everything that I want. That, for me, will wipe out any negative belief, right? So what's your power suggestion? Be clear on it. To intensify, to make it get into your mind quicker, right? You want to say the word and see each word come up in your mental screen as you say it. This intensifies your focus, which will deepen your trance, which will make it happen a lot faster. It's the second way you can do it. The third way, by the way, real quick, is all of this making sense so far? I want to make sure I'm not just like blowing past your mind right now.
Well, I got one question, but
go ahead.
I want you to continue because there's an awful lot of value, and I don't. Once you've gone through your steps, I'm more than
okay. I got one more.
Okay,
one more step. Now, the third way, this is what I specifically help my clients with. For example, I had a client so this is basically the third way is inner child work, reparenting the inner child. Now, we all have this inner child. If you've ever slammed a door and pouted your feet, I can imagine that's some childlike behavior, right? So you're doing that because there's probably a little kid in you that still wants to pout, that still wants to slam that door. And let's be honest, Thomas. Yeah, we're grown. You have a whole beard and everything. I got me a little facial hair going on. But at the end of the day, we're nothing but little kids in these big adult bodies, scared as hell. We're just unsupervised. And that's really what it comes down to. But inner child work, reparenting the child can give the child an entirely new perspective. For example, I had a client who was having daily panic attacks. And he told me word for word, I live in chaos. Very successful entrepreneur, but he said, I cannot even read because I'm so chaotic. Like I feel so anxious. I can't even sit down and read. He's like, dude, I have to figure out what the heck is going on. And so instead of medicating himself, we said, all right, well, let's figure out what the heck is going on. So I took him through the Neuro-Remapping method I take all of my clients through. And what we did was we did timeline therapy to find the inner child, to find where this came from. And so what happened was he found himself so one of them I'm not going to share because it's a little bit too much, a little bit intense. But one of the memories was him at 4 years old. His dad was on the phone and his dad went to the restroom and left the phone on hold. He picked up the phone and started talking jibber jabbering to the phone, just whoever else was on the other line. In other words, he was being childlike. He started saying all of these things on the phone. And his dad runs in, screams at him, gets super mad for what he does, and scolds him for being on the phone. And then it makes him believe in his little mind, I'm not wanted because my dad got mad at me. Like I'm not wanted, which means I'm a bad kid. A lot of people have the belief that they're bad and they don't even know it. I'm a bad kid. So his nervous system had to get bad and had to start jacking up, which triggered all of this anxiety. And so what I did was, in that moment, all I did was I had him replay the memory, but act like it happened differently. And remember, he was in a trance, so he was in theta. So we weren't just doing this in beta. This was a lot deeper. So it has a deeper effect on somebody. But we imagined him just playing around and his dad encouraging the behavior, his dad letting him. I said, imagine the person on the other line talks to you back and imagine they want to conversate with a little 4-year-old kid. And I'm like, be that 4-year-old. And for 10 minutes, I allowed him to be a 4-year-old in that moment. I allowed him to imagine his dad say, you can do whatever you want, son. Like, I love you. You're wanted. You're loved. I just had him remember the past differently. This rewires a neural pathway and will literally change your current perspective by rewiring your perspective of the past. You can change your past, guys. We think our past is solid. Your past is not solid. Your past is an idea. Ideas are fluid as hell. You can close your eyes and you can revisit a past event and change it. I help somebody get over their fear of selling by going back to a past moment where they got made fun of for reading books in the hallway. So they got made fun of for being the loser kid. I had her imagine that all of the friends sat down and asked her questions about the book because they were curious about the book, and they accepted her for all of her weirdness. And from that moment on, social anxiety disappeared, and she went and she like her sales completely skyrocketed, and she moved over to sales manager. These kind of things happen when you go back to so what you can do, a very simple way to do this is imagine yourself, your house in between the ages of 2 and 8, whatever house wants to come up in between that age, if you lived in multiple homes. And I have a guided video. I'll give your audience access to this so they can actually go through this process. Go to your childhood bedroom, open the door, find that little child, imagine your childhood self sitting on the ground or sitting on the bed. Ask them, what do you need right now that mom and dad didn't give you? And give it to them. If they want to be loved, hug the shit out of them. If they want to be seen, put them on a stage with thousands of people looking at them. Imagine, if they want to have fun, imagine them at Disney World. It doesn't matter if it's real. It's irreal if your mind sees it, period. So just by doing this, you can meet unmet needs and reframe long-held perspectives. Like the reason why I went from being socially anxious to being able to speak very well was because I became aware of that belief that there was something wrong with me. Like in that story I shared earlier, I went back using this method. I went back to that 5-year-old. I sat next to him as all the other kids laughed. And I said, look, man, I want you to know that you're so unique that the universe gave you a speech impediment so nobody ever forgot your voice. That's why you have this speech impediment. That's why you will never, ever be forgotten. And now I get invited to speak back at big places, right? I get people want to encore. I get more than half of my business through speaking because this speech impediment. You will never forget, period, right? And so I reframed that perspective for that little child and to change the way I felt right now, which absolutely reorganized my entire experience based off of that. So those are the three. That's how we can all get it done, guys. Super long answer to your very short question.
Well, thank you for the in-depth answer, and it was well worth listening to. So a lot of value in there. And,
beautiful.
One of my questions actually was going to be around almost like a before and after of, you said you had struggles with anxiety, and when you look at where you are now, there's a stark contrast. But if this is the process you went through, I can certainly understand why it would be the case that you no longer suffer from anxiety.
Was literally what I did was I took Neuro-Remapping, which is a process I created, and I took myself through it. And because I was having a lot of social anxiety, so this is why I went into it, because I was so socially anxious. Like Like I felt confident, man. But the moment I got around other entrepreneurs, I was like, oh my God, like I can't hang out with these people. I started getting there and I started noticing it was causing me to avoid conflict, to avoid making connections. It was costing me a lot of money. Social anxiety will cost you a lot of freaking money as an entrepreneur. And I was like, all right, I need to get to the bottom of this. I'm helping people all day with this shit. I need to figure out what's going on with me. And so Neuro-Remapping, it utilizes timeline therapy, which you're aware of if you study a little bit of NLP. And timeline therapy, for those who don't know, it's a great way of, let's imagine that you are in a big dark warehouse and you're stuck and you're trying to get out. You know there's an exit, you just don't know where it's at, and it's pitch black, you can't see. Timeline therapy is turning on the light in your mind so you can see all the furniture in that warehouse or all the memories in your mind. You can see a direct path out, right? And so you can go and you can find where you picked up certain behavior patterns, because all behavior patterns are emotional patterns. All emotional patterns are thought patterns. All thought patterns are byproducts of your beliefs. And so in this case, I found myself sitting back in my little 5-year-old body, sitting at that cafeteria table. And then I went through what I went through. And then when that happened, I was like, whoa, like this all makes sense. So I sat next to that little boy. And instead of changing the event, I didn't change the event. So sometimes I change the event for myself or for a client. Like I'll literally, because I believe there's infinite probabilities. You can go pick whichever one. That event is one probability in the realm of infinity. Go pick another one if you want it. And so I will either create another one, but in this case, I didn't. I just changed my perspective on the situation. I made it mean something else as opposed to what I made it mean before. Because the two most important decisions you're making at any given moment, like Tony Robbins says, is what you're choosing to pay attention to. Paying attention to all those kids laughing and what you choose to make that mean. Instead of making that mean, something's wrong with me. Turn around and made that mean, oh, look, they see what I see, this uniqueness. And they're not forgetting about it. And it's making a mark on them and it's leaving a real impression. So go use this genius. And then I opened up, and I came out of that session, social anxiety gone, started a public speaking career, and bam. So very, very interesting experience.
Well, one of the things I was going to say was, before you gave that answer, was around, is it actually, looking back on that hardship and that bad experience, for lack of a better term, is it actually a good thing now that you've been able to determine all these, I don't know, lessons, and you can help people as a result of going through that? And it's a recurring theme that when people go through, I don't know, hardship, that it makes them better if they can. How many times have you gone through something crappy, and then a year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, you look down the line and you're like, oh my God, best possible thing never happened. Right? Like that's, so with that being said, with every event I go through, like this can be good, this could be bad. I have no idea, but I am just going to make it good. I genuinely, myself personally, and I have still been working on this because I can still kind of feel it in my experience on dropping the belief in bad. I know it threatens your logic to believe in good without a belief in bad, because it's like, no, there's one, there has to be another. But it's actually very practical for you to believe only in good. Your nervous system, you will notice your nervous system stays in, your nervous system will be a lot more balanced. Your body will be a lot more healthy. You won't be dealing with a lot of emotional and mental ills if you genuinely just believe in good. If you believe everything works out for you, like carry that belief. You will not see such heavy evil experiences in your life. It's not saying that they won't exist. You just won't see them because your beliefs are going to filter them out. It's not that you're turning your cheek to what's ugly. It's that you're creating a better world. So yeah, in the moment, it felt bad. But at the end of the day, it's good. All is good. All is well all the time. And so that's where I'm at. But I do recommend, though, if people still believe in bad, of course, if there is if you're going through something right now that feels bad, just remember that you have no idea this can be the best possible thing that can happen to you. So just assume that it is, and reality, by law, will follow that assumption. So, well, the other thing that I was going to ask you about was when you're determining, shall we say, what questions you're going to ask yourself so that you can learn what your beliefs are about that thing. One of the questions you asked was, what do you think about life? And so I'm interested to know, Adrian, what do you think about life?
Well, I think first and foremost that energy at its basis is indeed love. If you look into an atom, you will find that the charge in the center of that atom is a positive charge. So I genuinely, with my heart, believe that everything carries this energy of love, and everything is just a different expression of love. For example, hate is an expression of, hey, you're not meeting my expectations. So I feel like I'm not loving you the way that I should. I feel disconnected from the love that I have from you. When it comes to really any kind of emotion, it's just like a rainbow. We have all the colors of the rainbow, but all colors come from one light. The same exact way, all emotions are different expressions of different manifestations of one thing, that is love. To me, the second thing I believe is that do what you wish with this. But if I eat a banana, or if I had a banana right here, and I snap my finger and that banana turned into a human being, who would you think I am? Probably think I'm like God or something. Oh my God, that's the one. But I ate a banana last night before bed. Right now, the banana became my flesh and bone. That exact process that you would attribute to God, it's happening within me. It's happening within you. So I genuinely believe that there is not a creator outside of ourselves. And so going within yourself allows you to literally manipulate your experience very, very powerfully. And another thing that I believe about life is that I believe that no beliefs are unconscious. A lot of people have a belief that they have unconscious blocks. I have a lot of people come to me, I feel like something's unconsciously blocking me. Clearly, something's not. You're very conscious that something is blocking you. The belief in unconscious blocks paints the picture of an unconscious block. There is no such thing as an unconscious belief. What is unconscious is the way your heart beats, right? The regeneration process that's happening in your cells right now, the way your breath happens, all of that's unconscious, right? But your beliefs, no, they're conscious. You're just too scared to feel the feelings that they bring. So you just ignore them and you hide them and you just steer them away. Another thing that I believe to be true about life, and this is like probably where I want to, it's like really contains everything else, but I said it in that speech, and I don't believe that there is an external reality. I genuinely do not believe in a reality outside. Outside is the inside in my mind. Not just in my mind, but in a physics mind, in a physicist's mind as well. The inside is the outside is just a different reflection of the inside. For example, I'm touching this wall right now, but I'm not really feeling this wall outside of me. What I'm feeling is the sensations in my hand. I can't feel a wall, but I can feel the sensations in my hand. If right now, my voice, you think you're hearing it out here, and the podcast listeners think I'm coming out of their stereo or their headphones or their phone. But the reality is I'm not. What's happening is there is a vibration that you are interpreting in your mind as words, and you're making it mean something. You're making it a sound. Same thing with images. Thomas, you're not looking at me. You're looking at the image in your mind of me. That's in your mind. And that's literally the way our brains work. We have the optical lobe in the back, and it sends this light out. It grabs the image, it reflects it internally, and we see it internally. Right. So when it comes down to understanding that the external is the internal. So living your life by paying attention to, by living your life by that principle inside out, will lead to you experiencing a life that feels like actual life. And so that right there is there's nothing outside of yourself, but external events. Your beliefs paint your picture so well that you forget that you painted it. And they become these bars that we forget we're even looking through. And your beliefs, they do their job so well that you can't tell between the physical events and the emotions and the beliefs that created those events. Everything that you see in this physical world is a mental phenomenon. This cup is a mental phenomenon. I'm looking at a field of energy, and I am perceiving a physical cup out of this empty field of energy. Everything in the universe is a mental phenomenon. So when you understand it's all a mental, and by the way, when I say mental, I also mean emotional. There's no separation. I hate when people separate your mindset and your emotions. I'm like, you can't do that. They're all the same thing. And that's another thing. There is no such thing as two. There's only one. You can't have two without one. You can't have one without two, but you can always have two with one. You can always have three. You need one to create anything else. It all comes back down to one. And so there's a couple of things that I think about life. I have a really interesting mind, I'd say.
It's interesting because typically when I speak to people, I can see where their perhaps inspirations or mentors come from. And I wanted to know whether you've taken any inspiration from As a Man Thinketh, James Allen at all.
Yep, that book is somewhere around here. I definitely have that book around here. That was a big inspiration. Where it actually started for me was Esther and Jerry Hicks. Are you familiar with their work? Like the Law of Attraction, Teachings of Abraham and stuff. By the way, I'm not a big fan of Law of Attraction anymore because I don't need to attract anything outside of myself. I'm the whole damn thing. But aside from that, Esther and Jerry Hicks is actually what got me into. So what happened was I lost 91 pounds. That's another part of my story, Thomas. I lost 91 pounds in my lifetime. And when I lost the 91 pounds, within that time span, I think I was about 70 pounds down. A good friend from high school reached out to me and she was like, hey, you look amazing. I just want to say you look happy. I'm a lot happier now. And this book helped me. I figured you should check it out. And it was Law of Attraction. I read that book, sent chills down my spine. And that led me to the work of Jane Roberts, which is she lived and she channeled some inner entity and wrote all of these books from the 60s to the 80s. And she passed away in the 80s. But I dove into that work. Seth Speaks. She channeled this energy called Seth, and Seth was breaking down a reality down to like, holy crap. I mean, interesting things, very interesting things. But that's where my inspiration really started. That got me into like all of this spirit. So, I mean, dude, I've probably got hundreds of books here, and most of them are in the spiritual consciousness space. And then the other like 40% or maybe are all like business books because of course I'm a business guy as well. But so those are my main inspirations when it came to that. But it wouldn't have happened without my best friend at that time. So Ariella, I love you to death. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that. There is also some reference to science or physics in some instances. What's your approach there?
Yeah, so for me, it's all about understanding reality, right? And when it comes down to understanding reality, you understand that everything is an electromagnetic unit of energy, right? That creates this world that we see, and that brings in this space that we call quantum physics. So the work that I do, I literally help people take quantum jumps. I demystify the mystical by like breaking it down to a science, because again, existence, if you ask any physicist what the universe is, they're going to say, I don't know. But they will tell you that it's a big swarm of energy. Beliefs are energy. Going through the work that I do, we're just moving energy around. It's like, it sounds so crazy when someone's like, you mean I've been drinking for the last 20 years of my life? You mean I can sit down and never drink again after today? That sounds a little bit too out there. But then when I break down, I'm like, no, look, what's happening is you're behaving this certain way. That's because this energy, you're feeling this certain way. This energy is going through your system. This energy is coming from this electromagnetic impulse in your mind. That's called a thought. That's coming from a deeper electromagnetic charge called a belief. So all we're going to do is change that belief. And by the law of physics, remember, Greg Braden, I don't know if I said this in that speech, but Greg Braden is a scientist. And he says, if you want to change reality, you have to change the electromagnetic field around you. If you want to change reality, our brains are electromagnetic. Our hearts are electromagnetic. So literally, With every single thought you think and every feeling you feel, you reorganize your entire atmosphere, your reality. Physical matter gets changed by our perspective of it. If you don't believe me, go ahead after this YouTube, the double slit experiment, and you will see that reality, little like the subparticles that create this entire universe, they know when we're looking at them. They know what we're expecting. If we expect a particle to act like a solid piece of matter, the particle puts on his little acting mask and acts like a solid piece of matter. But if you expect nothing to be there, the particle disappears into thin air. Not really. It just becomes a wave again, and it acts like a wave again to the point where you can't see it. So at the end of the day, all of this comes down to the quantum level of reality. This is the reality of reality. And that's where physics really comes into play in all of this, is understanding the laws of the universe. And the laws of the universe is down to the laws of energy. And when you study energy, you start to see really quickly, like, why your life is the way it is. So does that make sense? I know I was kind of a little bit all over the place there, but does that make sense?
It's fascinating. Is the scientist you mentioned, is that the person who did the Harvard study that you referenced in your talk?
No. That was not. The Harvard study was a group of students. The scientist the scientist I mentioned, Greg Braden, he actually mentioned the study in one of his, I was watching a video from him a long time ago. He mentioned that study. And so I've never heard about it. So that's when I Googled it, and I was able to see that it was a bunch of Harvard students that actually saw it. And they were like, that's interesting. So they were like, hey, let's open up this data and let's like pinpoint this stuff to see what's going on in the world that created it. So no, different person, but he's the one who made me realize that was a study itself. And that thing blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, that is insane. So it was just more validation for what my bones already felt. And what I mean by that is a lot of people listening to this, it may be passing their mind. A lot of it, I try to make it as logical as I can by bringing the science into it and really like reverse engineering reality. But I can understand a lot of it is hard to logically like understand, but you can feel this in your bones. Your bones know what's true. They can feel certainty. So I felt that in my bones whenever I saw that. I was just like, oh, just more validation for what I knew. And so, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about self-sabotage, because you referenced in your earlier life when you were 23 about having the e-brake on. But I do kind of feel like the first part of our chat today, not the speech, but when you went through ways to change your beliefs, it kind of covers it.
Yeah, it does.
So one
self-sabotage is behavior, right? It's all it is. It's behavior. And again, the same exact way, you're going to pinpoint that behavior down to a belief. All it comes down to is pinpointing a behavior back down to a belief. So exactly what I took. So self-sabotage comes from, just like anxiety, just like everything else, comes from a belief about yourself. I had somebody who sabotaged their success because they believed they were not important. So their needs were not important. So they would just sabotage their success, their relationships over and over and over again because of that belief. I took them through a neuro-remapping to do the same exact stuff that we did, that we talked about here, to eliminate the pattern itself. But it's the same exact thing. And one more thing I want to just communicate here is, I know I'm talking a lot about like going back into like past childhood, like going back to like your childhood and your past. Do not fall into the trap of believing that you are at mercy of your past or your childhood. You're not. Your point of power is now. Time does not exist. The past is an idea. If I told you to go run until you found the past, I would literally never see you again. What that means is you can go back to the past and manipulate events. But the reason why I use timeline regression so people can go back to past memories is because you will only review the past through the eyes of your current beliefs. So I have them look at the past to shine light on what they currently believe. Because if you believe that something is wrong with you, you will find in your past moments where that belief is being validated. But it's a current belief, not a past belief. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I do like to ask everyone who comes on what success means to you. So does anything come to mind there?
The ability to do what I want to do by being who I want to be. Period.
A succinct answer. It's almost like you've had some thoughts about that before.
Yep. I've been asked that question a lot. And to me, it's because success is so subjective. Like I made almost $500,000 in my life by 23. I could have called that successful. And somebody could have said, dude, like only $500,000. Like, so like it's so variable to me. And it comes down to like, are you being who you want to be and doing the things that you want to do? Whether that's being a teacher, whether that's being a custodian. But I don't care what that is to you. Don't let somebody else define success for you.
Is there anything I should have asked you about today?
Love that question. I really never know what to answer to that one. So I guess, no, yeah. There's nothing you should have asked me today. You asked me some really good questions. And I know that story, that talk at the beginning answered a lot of questions that probably should have been asked. So yeah, man, we're all good on that one.
All right. Well, I guess congratulations on everything that you've done, everything you've achieved and learned, and well done for being an amazing guest, because that's what you are.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if it's okay, if your audience wants to like download that video I talked about, where I actually show them how to get into theta, I can just share the link with you, and you can share it in the show notes. But this will actually take them through what I was just talking about. That way, they're like actually they can go through an experience, as opposed to just like, okay, let me like go try all of this stuff. So I can guide you through like how to get into trances and all of that stuff. So yeah,
I'm happy to put any links in the description. But for those who are listening, where can people connect?
Yeah, if you're listening, just go to, and again, you can drop this in the description too. But if you're listening, go to www.rewiremythoughts.com/unshakable. www.rewiremythoughts.com/unshakable. Yes, you got to give me your email, your phone number, and your name, but it's going to be well worth it. All right. So go ahead, download that. And you'll check your email, and it'll be sitting right there in your email. It's about 45 minutes, because it's a real experience. Like, it's not like me just talking to you. Like, I'm actually going to be guiding you through it. So set aside time for it and make sure you can be distraction free for at least like 45 minutes. One more thing, don't eat before you do it. I recommend you don't eat. When your stomach is empty, your mind's clear. So don't eat before it.
Your keynote was brilliant, and the value you brought today was brilliant. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, man. It's a pleasure being here.